Hi, am I on the air?
Yep.
Fuck.
Thanks.
I've been in the danger zone.
He got a bath. Minus 5 stars. Mango.
Huh? Yeah, my we got to use that.
Jeff Harvey.
How much is a Skyway?
Play.
We'll play 21.
Fuck.
Well, what is going down, everybody? Welcome to another brand new Am I Still on the Air? And you know by now, Am I Still on the Air is going to be your place to hear spoiler-filled reviews. So there's your warning. These are spoiler-filled reviews. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, I recommend you come back and listen to this show after you've seen the movie. Or if you don't care about spoilers, then go ahead and sit back and relax and check it out. Because I know there's actually a good handful of people I know that listen to the show that listen to these spoiler reviews and haven't seen the movies yet and actually decide whether they want to see it or not based on the spoiler reviews. So that is cool as well. I just want to make sure that you understand this is spoiler-filled. If you want to hear a spoiler-free version of this review, just listen to the latest edition of Am I on the Air. The latest episode is called Apes on Horses, and you can hear the spoiler-free review. But tonight, it's all about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and this is the spoiler-filled review of that on Am I Still on the Air. My name is DONMEGA. I am your host, and I am joined once again by my spoiler crew over here, Geeky Pat, and For My Peeples, Sean Peeples over on Twitter as well. So both guys back in the house, seen the movie, ready to talk about it. How you guys doing?
Geek Nation in the house. I'm doing great, actually. Thanks for having me on, Don. I appreciate you always inviting me back to these things.
Yeah, man. Definitely appreciate it. Doing awesome. I am ready to talk monkey.
Oh, yeah. Technically, we shouldn't have For My Peeples on this show since he stood us up when we went and watched the movie on Friday night. So I am calling him out publicly right now. You know, me and Geeky Pat, we went. He showed up at least, and you know, we had plans with Mr. Peeps over here, and then he no called, no showed. And
I drove 4 hours and still came to that.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. It was like in Phoenix. I don't know. Phoenix was too far for me. That's what the directions said. Maybe Don just gave me wrong directions. I don't know.
Right. You know, we're sitting there. The movie's about to start. I'm like, I don't think he's coming.
Yep.
I really don't think he's coming. And
Yeah, I know. CPT isn't that bad. It was just, I don't know. Google that.
yeah. So what happened to you, Peeps?
Oh, okay. So it's going to be this. No, see what happened.
See what had happened was I was at a family barbecue.
No, I was at. All right, so it was my son's birthday, and yeah.
I don't understand. It was my son.
I
brought him to the movie. I don't see how that's an excuse.
I was going to bring him to the movie, and then I was in the front, and they were like, "Nah, we can't do this. You can't. You got to turn." And I got mad, and I flipped the table, and it was crazy, man. It was a crazy moment, and I'll be there next time, Don. I'll be there for Guardians of the Galaxy. You can count on that. Though the baby might be here, I don't know, dude.
Well, the next big IMAX movie is definitely going to be Hercules, so we got to line that one up.
Yeah, I want to see that one.
So Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, we saw it opening weekend, and very excited to talk about it. This movie was badass. Loved it. And, I was a very big fan of the original film, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, came out a couple years ago, James Franco. That was a movie that was a big surprise hit for me over the summertime. That summer it came out, I think the movie might have opened in August. And, usually there's not too many big movies in the August time frame. And, I remember seeing the preview and being like, okay, that looks pretty cool, but not really expecting too much out of it. And Rise came out and just blew my mind. I was so impressed by the film, immediately felt like a connection to the CG ape, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is insane!" And the great Andy Serkis did the motion capture for Caesar. Caesar, of course, is the ape that is the main ape of the storyline in the first film. That James Franco, they're running tests on these apes, and it's making them super intelligent. And Caesar is born with the intelligence already enhanced because he's born. His mother was one of the apes that was being experimented on, and they all end up getting killed. And they find the baby in the cage, and James Franco takes him home. And the movie kind of time jumps, several years, and you see Caesar grow up, and he's a great, fun-loving ape, and he ends up getting in a little bit of trouble. James Franco's dad, he is getting into a fight with the neighbor, and Caesar comes to the rescue and basically beats the neighbor down, being protective, of his guy. And, so he ends up going into a shelter, and he gets kind of abused in there, and he has to deal with the other apes, and that kind of leads the transition into the apes over humans. Caesar kind of enhances a lot of them. He steals some of the drug from the laboratory. He, opens it up in the cages and gets all the other apes, enhanced like he is. And basically a big war breaks out. The monkeys retreat into the woods. And then you hear and you see about this simian flu breakout. And this flu starts to kill off a lot of the population. And so the new movie, Dawn, takes place 10 years in the future. And, it's 10 years after the simian flu has broken out. Most of the human population has actually passed away. But there's several survivors that are basically immune to the flu. And they are trying to rebuild. But the apes are up in the woods, and they kind of have their own community. They haven't even seen humans in 10 years. And they're, of course, led by Caesar, who is, now got, 2 kids and a wife. And, you see a lot of the other monkeys from the previous films, like Koba, and you see Rocket and Maurice. Those are several of the Ash, some of the apes from the first film that you see them all kind of come back. And it's really cool to see kind of the dynamic between all of the apes. And a crew of humans led by Jason Clarke. He takes. They're going through the woods. There's a dam up in the woods, and they want to work on it to help restore power to the section that they're living in. And this asshole dude, I don't even know who the actor was, but this asshole guy ends up shooting one of the apes, and therefore Caesar and all the other apes come flying down and tell them to leave. And Caesar, of course, speaks this. He says, "Go!" And so they all leave, and Jason Clarke is talking with Gary Oldman in the movie, and basically tells him, like we found the dam, and it could be the salvation that we need, but the apes are up there, and they don't want us up there anymore. And it kind of becomes this whole should we go? But the apes don't want us there. And Jason Clarke actually goes up into the woods, and he says, he wants to go talk to Caesar. And he speaks to him, and he says, "I know you said to go." And a really cool scene too of Caesar coming with all the apes coming down into the city, and basically speaking and telling them, "You stay away, and we'll leave you alone." And like you go, and we'll stay, and it is what it is. Don't ever come back. And so they leave, and then Jason Clarke goes and says, "I know you told us to leave, but please, we really want to work on this dam, and we need your help, and can we get your permission?" And Caesar, who doesn't hate the humans because he grew up with the James Franco character, and he understands that there's good to the humans. Caesar says, "Okay, we'll give you 3 days," and Koba, of course, does not appreciate this, and Koba's trying to tell him, "No, you can't trust them. You can't trust the humans. Look what they did to us. They experimented on us. They're assholes, basically." And Caesar says, "No, we need to trust the humans. We'll let them do it, and then they'll leave us alone. If we give them what they want, they'll get their power, and then they'll leave us alone." But Koba doesn't understand this, and he thinks, no, this is only going to make them stronger. And, so he reluctantly, they let the people come in. They go to work on it. Really cool little scene with little baby ape hanging out with Carrie Russell, and then the little baby ape jumps into the bucket of the asshole guy and finds his gun, which Caesar's big, one condition was no weapons. And so he gets super pissed because, his child's life is put on the line, and then they don't trust everybody, and you go now, the deal's off the table, and so forth. And, all hell starts to break loose as Gary Oldman's character saying, no, we got to do what we got to do. Why don't you work on the armory and let's get the weapons ready to go, and we're going to force our ways to get the dam up and running. But Jason Clarke's character doesn't want to do that. He goes back and he risks his life to talk to, Caesar again. And luckily for him, Carrie Russell figures out that Caesar's wife is sick and she wants to help, and it kind of buys them another day to go work on the dam. Koba, in the meantime, doesn't trust, goes and finds the armory and sees them working on all the weapons, and and sets up this whole big scam of he basically assassinates Caesar and then blames it on the humans and says, the humans shot Caesar and they killed him, and he even tricks Caesar's son. His name is Bright Eyes or Blue Eyes.
Blue Eyes.
Yeah, Blue Eyes, and says, look, they killed your dad, and now, like down with the humans. We have to take them out in the name of Caesar, and so basically this war starts because of Koba kind of manipulating everybody, and that's where you see a lot of the apes on horses and all the machine guns and all the fighting and everything. A really, really cool scene. Of course, Caesar's not dead, and Jason Clarke and Carrie Russell find him on the side of the road, basically half dead, and they could take him back actually to the James Franco house and get him patched up and get him good to go, let him rest for a couple days. Really cool scene of Caesar kind of picking up the videotape up in the attic and watching a scene from the first movie of him as a baby with James Franco learning, different languages and stuff. And that was really cool. I like that flashback to it, bringing in the James Franco character again. And so then basically this war breaks out, and Caesar needs to go regulate against Koba because now Koba's gone crazy and this motherfucker went nuts. I mean, there's a scene in there where Ash stands up for himself and says, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, Caesar would not have approved of this. And Koba's like, oh, okay, cool, no problem. And then just grabs him by the head, drags him up the stairs, and then just literally picks him up and throws him off the fucking balcony. I was like, holy shit. It was a crazy ass scene. And then he's pretty much like, anybody else got something to say? Nobody else wanted to do nothing. Koba in this movie is not the same character that he was in the first. He's actually played by Toby Kebbell in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Toby Kebbell actually going to be the new Victor Von Doom in the new Fantastic Four reboot. He was in Clash of the Titans. He was in The Counselor. He was in Wrath of the Titans, I should say, not Clash. He was in War Horse and The Sorcerer's Apprentice. He was in Prince of Persia. So he's got a handful of movies to his name. Great motion capture stuff. I mean, everybody talks about Andy Serkis, but Toby Kebbell did an amazing job as Koba. I'm actually quite curious to know what the hell happened with the original guy that did Koba in the first movie and why they switched it. But because Koba was in the original film. So, the whole war breaks out, and Caesar and Koba get into it, and they beat each other down, and pretty much take out Koba. It looks like Koba's dead, but I know Sean thinks he's alive and might be returning, and we'll let him talk about that here in a second. But pretty much at this point, they're saying, it's a little bit too late. The war is about to begin because the humans have already radioed in saying, that the apes that they're under attack from the apes, and I read the original alternate ending of the film was actually showing the military ships showing up in the dock and in the harbor and everything to kind of show that next step, but they ended up taking that out because the director said he didn't want to be pigeonholed to that for the third movie, so he kind of held back. But that was the original ending, was to show all the warships showing up. great ending with Caesar and Jason Clarke kind of bonding and going over, thank you for everything you've done. We trust the humans and the humans trust us, and and now we need to prepare for war. And it gets me super, super stoked for part 3, which I believe will be War of the Planet of the Apes. I'm pretty sure that's going to end up being the title for that. And I love this film. Just the acting was superb. I thought Andy Serkis was on a whole nother level as Caesar in this film. Caesar has definitely turned out to be one of my favorite CG type characters that have ever been done. He's such a cool character, man. I love it, and it made me feel bad. I'm watching this movie and I'm rooting for the apes the entire time. I'm like, what kind of human being does this make me that I'm like
Exactly.
down with the humans? It's all about the apes, ape family. It's crazy the effect that these movies have on you, because I had the same exact effect on Rise of the Planet of the Apes that I did on Dawn. So, that's the gist of the storyline aspect of it, and then we'll kind of talk about our pros and our cons, and what we liked and didn't like, and some highlights for us. So, start off with you, Sean. Kind of run down what did you think, and what were some of your big highlights, and what were some of your cons about it?
Well, going into this, we had seen the other movies, the Transformers and X-Men in the theaters, and I'm watching trailers to this film, and at this point, I still have not seen the original, the Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And I was telling you and Pat and pretty much everybody, I haven't seen this movie. After the Marky Mark film, I haven't really been too enthusiastic about any kind of Planet of the Apes. And I think you also kind of mentioned the original Planet of the Apes. You weren't too much of a fan of it. And, I wasn't either. Maybe it was just because it wasn't my... I didn't grow up with it. I didn't see it in the theater. They didn't look real to me. And... The movie, I just didn't like anything about the original Planet of the Apes. You get your paws off me, you damn dirty ape! But
great scene. What are you talking about?
Great scene, but kind of the only thing I really remember about the movie. Now, okay, so I know I needed to see the Rise, so I rented it, and literally the day before I saw the movie, I watched the Rise, and just watching Rise, it paid such an homage to the original. They had even named the first ape that was injected, or the mom, Caesar's mom. Her name was Bright Eyes. That was the same name that they gave Charlton Heston when he was in captivity, Bright Eyes. I thought that was cool. And then I guess at one point you had seen the rocket ship take off, and the Lazarus or whatever it was named is on its. Is going off on its journey. Good luck to them. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Charlton Heston's in that ship. The shit's about to go down, And so the original Planet of the Apes, the Rise, I liked that they told the story so well, and there hardly was any script. There hardly was any words that were used. I could just imagine what the script looked like. Camera pans into Caesar's face. Caesar looks really angry. Caesar walks around the cave. It's like there was hardly any dialogue, and I like that a lot. They told the story so well without actual actors, speaking, having actual speaking roles. And Don, I now understand what you were saying when you said Andy Serkis deserved an Oscar for that role, because he told the story without talking. He told the entire, with really just signing to Maurice. But other than that, you felt everything of Caesar, without him actually speaking one word. And it was so good. I loved the first movie so much. So I'm like, oh my God, this next movie has to be great. And I was so pleased with where they had went with the second movie. I know that at the end of the first movie, the virus had spread, and after the virus spreads, there's not going to be that many people. But obviously, off of the trailer, there are some people. So stuff's about to go down. So I think they do a very good job at at creating conflict. You also mentioned that there's no bad guy in this. There's no, guy with an eye patch standing on top of, I mean, I guess really other than Koba, but, standing on top of, a mountain saying, we're going to kill them all and, to conquer the world. Like, Koba wanted revenge. That was, and it was well-deserved revenge. And Gary Oldman just wanted to survive. And it just sucks that both of these entities are, I guess just in the same world. They just both cannot coexist with each other. And that by itself, it created a great conflict. It created a good story. And I mean, Don, you said that you sided with the apes more. I mean, I definitely sided with the apes more. And I wish that they would have given me more of a reason to kind of side with the humans, like show a little bit of struggle. Like they were talking about how once the power goes out, things are going to go bad. I just couldn't. I wasn't as convinced that things are going to go as drastic and as bad as they were, just based off of what he said. He said things are going to go bad, so I have to believe it. But looking at the people, they didn't look like they were like starving and things were like really bad for them. They just looked like it looked okay. So I wish that they would have did a little bit more with that. And I'll definitely let Pat take over soon. But I just also want to bounce off of what Don had said. I definitely think Koba's alive, and that's my own fault. I mean, I still think that Jack Nicholson's Joker and Danny DeVito's Penguin is still alive. Like, all Danny DeVito said is that I need a cold drink of ice water, and the Penguin put him in the water, and he had a drink, so he's alive now. So I don't know. Maybe that's probably my own. I just want Koba to be alive. I think that would be great for him to pop up somewhere in the sequel. But obviously, the tension's going to be the apes and the humans. Koba really wouldn't fit into that very well. But I just think it would be great. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it on my newest episode of Am I on the Air in the spoiler-free review about that whole fact of there's not really a good guy or bad guy. And that's something that's very unique in this day and age in a movie theater, experience. Because, every film, even the most basic of films, always have some kind of evil bad guy. And, yeah, I mean, Koba was the extent of that in this film, but at the same token, you have to kind of understand where Koba was coming from, because Koba understood that the humans, the only humans he really interacted with were the ones that experimented on him and treated him like shit. So he doesn't have that love for humans like Caesar does, because Caesar was treated like family. He was treated like, one of them. And so he understands a totally different side of humans that Koba doesn't. So you can't blame Koba for what he's thinking, because Koba's thinking, ape protect ape, and he's trying to do what he thinks is right. And like you said, in the trailers, you were led to kind of believe Gary Oldman was going to be the big bad guy, and he was going to say, let's kill all these damn monkeys, and it really wasn't that at all. It was just like, hey, I lost my family, and we built this community, and we need that dam, and we need to be able to get our water going and our electricity and everything. So it wasn't really about that. It was just he wanted it to be better for them. And, and I like that, it was both sides. And I think that that's another reason why Koba won't return in the third one, because the third one's really going to be the war of the apes and the humans, and they don't need that interaction of ape against ape and ape against humans all tied up into it. So, and I think they did a pretty good job killing off Koba, because it was like he fell, he hit the chain, the chain wrapped around him, it slammed him into another pillar, and then that pillar crashed and fell down another 50 feet. So it was like they were pretty clear on his death.
I didn't see a body, so I don't know.
Yeah,
they did that for the Seans of the world.
Exactly. Even though his body was smashed like 3 times, but he might still be alive down that hole. But
hey, he's been through a lot, so you never know.
A lot,
Koba was a pivotal character too in the movie, because you had to have the antagonist to the humans, because Caesar really wasn't that. He was smart enough to understand that there had to be some kind of peaceful coexistence if this was going to work without a war. And you had to have something kick it off. And so Koba was that. I don't think Koba was any less loyal to Caesar till right up to the end. I mean, like there was that scene with the bear, remember? And it was such a cool scene. And that bear's about to kill him, and he dives out and kills the bear because Caesar yells for Koba. He was willing to die for Caesar. I think in the end, though, he felt like because the whole monkey or ape, whatever you want to call him, their whole society is kind of like, because his name is Caesar, is kind of based on the Roman thing, and you can see where that was playing within the politics of the apes. You know, he's soft, and I need to take him down for the protection of the apes. So even Koba wasn't really a bad guy either, but we needed that antagonist, you know, that was going to kick off this whole thing, and Koba played that role perfectly, I think.
Yeah.
And I also think Koba's role, you know, it was exactly what you had said, Pat, but it really, you know, as us as an audience, you know, we're rooting for the apes, but it gives us that moment, and Caesar that same exact moment where it's like the apes are no better than the humans, and to me that was like, they always, you know, it's always like, you know, you watch Avatar and you see the Na'vi, and everybody likes the Na'vi, and the Na'vi are so much better than the humans in all ways. But in this, it really shows that, you know, like there's so much like humans in every way, obviously except for the virus. But like what had happened to the humans could still potentially happen to the apes, because again, they've only been a society for, I assume, maybe like 10 or 15 years or something, but and they're already kind of leaning toward that route that the humans had. So I thought that was a very interesting element that they added to it.
Yeah, these movies are not just big summer blockbuster movies, but they actually have a lot of thought behind them, and they're well written and well acted films at the same token, which is kind of a mixed bag. It's hard to get all of that into one film, and I think that this new reboot version of Planet of the Apes is really killing it. You know, it's nailing it. Like Sean said at the beginning, like I'm not a fan of the original series, and you know, I kind of like the Mark Wahlberg reboot, like when it came out, but man, I saw that shit recently, and it's horrible. And you know,
Yikes.
It's just like it's so bad, and you know, like it's just I don't think we can get that. Like that just doesn't work in this day and age. You know, like that whole like with the way the apes were and acted and everything in those films. Like the way that they're done now, it just makes more sense. You know, and it's so good. So Pat, you know, it's your turn. Go ahead, give us a rundown, man. What was your thoughts coming out of this film?
Well, and like you two, I loved the 1968 Planet of the Apes. I watched it with my dad. It was super awesome then. Watched it now, it's kind of rough to watch. And I think if they could do the CGI that they had now, they would have done CGI, you know. But I'm a Star Trek fan, and you know that they had horrible masks and that, and I still love that stuff. So I think the 1968 movie was great. It was a shocker to me. I couldn't imagine apes running this place, and we were slaves. It was just this wonderfully orchestrated sci-fi that when I was a kid, it was just this. I was like, I don't know, 9 or 10 when I watched it. It was just hard. It was just so shocking to me. And then I got excited when they came out with the Planet of the Apes. I think it was 2000, 2001, right, with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah,
and I watched it, and even then I was kind of like, I don't like this as much, you know? And so, like I was telling you, I actually never went and watched Rise of the Planet of the Apes up until this movie came out. And you tell me how good it was, and I was actually going to rent it after you told me that, and I kind of forgot. So then I just got back from camp, and see, Sean, I was at camp forever, and I drove 4 hours and still made it to the movie. But,
unlike a man who is not for his peoples.
I'll just give you a hard time. I love you, brother. Anyway, so when this movie came out and I saw the previews, I was excited about it. So, you know, I rented it on my Xbox, and I watched The Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And it was shockingly good for what it was. I expected more of the 2001 kind of apes, and not what I got. But I think this was probably the best of all of it. I mean, like I could see where they were going to go with it. And then you and me talked about this, I think, during the Transformers. This is not a real monkey. This isn't a real person on the screen. It's nothing there. I mean, you're looking at James Franco talk to nothing. And
That's actually not true. You're watching.
Yeah, isn't he standing in their motion capture?
You're watching him in front of Andy Serkis, man.
Well, I
That was
don't-
all Andy Serkis.
Even so, the monkey isn't there. That's what I'm getting at. He's CGI, but he's believable to me. I forget that he's CGI. I mean, he looks plausible. They suspend my disbelief, and I found myself caring so much about what happened to him as a character. And I told you this today, that I think he's probably one of the greatest characters in movie fiction that I've attached to maybe the last 3 or 4 years. You know, I can't think of anybody who I felt bad. The scene when I told you in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, when he was coming, he bribed that guy to get him out, and he just closes the door on him and turns his back, and you could see the pain in Caesar's face when he did it. It killed me. I don't know why. It just killed me.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and then in this movie, Caesar was this grown-up leader kind of guy now, and he built this society, and these apes were like, you know, submissive to him, and you could see where the Planet of Apes I fell in love with as a kid shined in this movie, without it being kind of the lame outfits and masks. Does that make sense? So, like, when they're on the horses, I was like, oh, you know, the scene when they ride up to the gates, remember that, of the city, and they're like, we don't want war, but we will go to war. Don't ever come back, kind of thing. That was sweet to me. It was awesome. It brought me back to that 9-year-old kid who thought, yeah, this is a cool concept, you know. Again, I think all the characters, even Kirk Acevedo, who was in Band of Brothers, was the jerk that you were talking about. That's how I know him. It's the only movie I've seen him in is Band of Brothers. He was the guy that brought the weapon in. I mean, I hated his character in the movie. He just was just jerk. But I understood why he was a jerk, and he was a great actor because I hated him. I wanted him to die. Matter of fact, that was one of the times where I'm an awful human being like you. I liked it when Cobra killed him, right? Everybody in the movie, it was great. I think ultimately, out of all of the 2 movies, this is probably, I really liked Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and there's a part of it that's going to be just the development of Caesar is kind of my favorite of it all, but I really like the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes because it shows that next step. So there wasn't even Maurice. Like, Maurice, for me, I thought he was going to die in the movie, and it was killing me because Maurice started off as that circus monkey, or was he the circus, or he was in a
Circus.
it was circus, yeah, in the first one. And he was, like, very smart before they even gave him the gas. So, like, he was just, like, a kind of likable character even then. I mean, these are monkeys I'm talking about, of course, but he's a likable character, you know? And I was attached to them. I wasn't so attached to the humans. I don't know if it's because they just introduced them, and I was already attached to some of these characters from the first Rise of the Apes. I won't call it the original like you guys, because the Planet of the Apes 1968 is the original of me. But, all the characters, even when the way Caesar
It seemed
interacts,
like they tried. They really tried to get you to care, but I just could. I'm with you there.
yeah, I mean, they weren't unlikable. They just you were on board for Caesar, and everybody else was in his way, kind of, except for Malcolm and I forget the other guy's name now, Alexander or something, the young kid. I don't remember his wife's name in the movie either.
I don't know any of their names, to be honest.
I remember
I don't
those
remember
two.
saying any of them.
Well, Alexander, I remember because he was the son of, and there was this dynamic though within the tribe that really got me, like being a father and having a son, and seeing how the son was interacting with the father. It was very realistic. It was very like the son was disappointed that his dad just wasn't getting what he was trying to point. Like his son supposedly knew everything at this age, you know, and dad actually knew everything and was right. And so it was like that same dynamic maybe that I had with my father at that age. Like, you know, I don't really want to do it your way. I think my way is right, but it's totally wrong. My dad was always right, you know? And so there was this dynamic there that even made me more attached to them because I saw that dynamic more so than the human. So I feel like the ape interaction within its own people were more genuine and more developed than the humans because like the humans, you saw them a little bit, and you could kind of feel their pain because they lost loved ones, and you could kind of see the dynamic between Alex and Malcolm, but it wasn't the same. Does that make sense? It was like the monkeys. It's like they spent more time for you to like the monkeys. Now, I did like how it did have that Roman flair. The son betrays the father, and realized he didn't really want to betray the father. Like he was tricked. He didn't like. He was already going to go along with Koba anyway, but Koba needed to do something to push it, and that's when he faked Caesar's death. So there was that Roman kind of, even at the end when everyone's bowing to him, it just reminded me of this great leader or king or emperor. It was just a phenomenal movie for a bunch of animated monkeys. You know what I'm saying? Like, I shouldn't be saying Maurice was this great character, because Maurice wasn't a character necessarily. He was animated, but to me, he was just as real as the guy who played Malcolm. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I'm done rambling.
Yeah, no, there's so much to point out. But they did such a great job. I mean, Matt, I was a little disappointed at first when I heard that the original director of Rise wasn't coming back, and they had shifted gears, and Matt Reeves was coming on, because all I really knew Matt Reeves had done was Cloverfield, which I like Cloverfield, but Cloverfield was shot in the found footage style, so I'm always curious to see when a director's a found footage style, what do they do when it comes to a regular movie, which is kind of the same thing with the Fantastic Four reboot. I was just talking to Pat about this earlier.
Yeah.
How the director of the Fantastic Four reboot is Josh Trank, who all I know him from is Chronicle, which Chronicle was the exact same thing. It's all found footage. So how is he going to handle, Fantastic Four? But Matt Reeves did an amazing job. I mean, and the studio loved what he did. I mean, they actually signed him to come on and do the third movie months ago. I mean, the movie just came out a couple days ago, and he's been signed for several months to come back and do the third film. So
I'm glad.
That just shows you, that the studio has that much faith in him, and they really liked what he did with the franchise, that they locked him in. And so I'm looking forward to the next chapter, and I just think they really knocked it out of the park here. I mean, one thing that really needs to be pointed out is, I mean, we throw around the term CGI a lot, and what is done in this movie isn't pure CGI. I mean, this is motion capture. Andy Serkis and, Toby Kebbell, and even Judy Greer is in this movie. She actually plays Caesar's wife. They are actors on a set, in person, wearing a mocap suit. They are walking around like monkeys. They are doing the dialogue. They are doing all the facial expressions. Everything is being handled by real actors. And then the digital effects team goes in and animates on top of it. So when you see Caesar look at the camera and raise an eyebrow and snarl and like that is all Andy Serkis. The way when he reaches out and he shakes somebody's hand, that's Andy Serkis. I mean, it's not a typical CGI where, like you were talking about earlier, Pat, where it's just like an actor and a green screen, and then later on something gets put there like a dragon. Like this is motion capture. This is an actor walking around on set. It's really cool if you actually watch on Rise of the Planet of the Apes. If you watch the making of it, there's a great effects section on that Blu-ray that shows Andy Serkis in the mocap suit doing all of those scenes. And then it shows you like the side by side of him doing the facial expressions and moving his lips and moving his nose and moving his eyebrows, and then seeing it animated on top of it. And you see the side by side of how, I mean, that is Andy Serkis. He is doing everything there. And there's early buzz and early word that Andy Serkis might actually get an Oscar nomination for this film. And I think it's well deserved, because Caesar is the leading actor in this movie.
Yeah.
And the studio or the officials at the Academy can try to say, oh, it's an animated character, but there's a person there. There's a person there that's doing all of the acting and doing everything on camera. It's just, getting digitized. I mean, to me, it's almost exactly the same as Robert Englund, getting made up to be Freddy Krueger.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's very
fair.
fair.
It doesn't look like Robert Englund. He puts a mask on and he puts makeup on and he becomes a different character. Well, that's Andy Serkis is putting on his outfit, which is a digital monkey suit.
Yeah.
In the end result, that's still him. That's still his expressions. That's still his movements. It's still his everything. So why should he not be honored for that?
And it's probably why they didn't keep Christopher Gordon as Koba either, because if I remember, Christopher Gordon was even on some of the X-Men movies and things. He's just a stunt man. He's just a stunt actor, and he's not really an actor. Does that make sense? And they needed someone maybe that could act, because like you said, the facials. I mean, that's just it too. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. Like you can see the pain, like Sean was saying. You can sometimes see the pain in Caesar's eyes, or the frustration in Koba's face, or, and there really is acting there. I mean, it's not just how great it's not just as great the artists. They were great artists. The monkeys look real, but you know what I'm saying? It was like you could see the anguish. You could see like there was like a person there. Well,
just think back to the scene of Koba telling Caesar, like, humans, like pointing to all the scars on his body. Like, that was fucking intense,
The power scene.
He's like, you're showing all this love for them, but look what I got. This is what humans did.
Human work.
Yeah, because he said they're just doing humans' work. That's right. That was a powerful scene.
Oh yeah, I'll show you human work, every single mark on my body that they did to me when they tortured me. But how cool was Koba? Oh man, one of my favorite scenes was him acting like the stupid dumb monkey with those guys at the armory.
Oh my gosh. I wish I didn't see that in the trailer, man.
I know, but man, him clapping and sticking his tongue out all, and then
and rolling
around, and then he's sitting down with them and drinking the bottle of alcohol, and he's like, "Oh, me, a stupid monkey with the gun. Look at me, brat!" And then he just kills him straight up, like,
and his face changes like that.
Oh, so good. Just one of my favorite scenes. Yeah, it definitely spoiled a little bit by the trailer, but man, what a great scene of how he tricks, the humans. You think stupid ape, but it was actually the ape that's outsmarted the humans.
Yeah. And another scene that I remembered a lot, and when I saw it in the theater, I'm like, and I literally leaned over to my fiance and I said, "This is such a good scene," but it was when he had taken over the tank, and the shot was. The tank's perspective, and you saw, the front of the barrel, and the tank was slowly spinning and moving forward. So you get to see, I don't know, it was just so interesting. You get to see like the whole battle in like a 360 perspective, slowly, and the sound is like it's almost silent at that moment, and then it's going forward. I'm like, what are they going to do? Is he going to flip a switch and blow a hole in the wall? And then it just shows like that was pretty much the beginning of the end for the humans in that area, and it was that oh man, that scene is just, it's so memorable. Like I picture it like frame by frame right now in my head, and I loved it.
Well, I mean, one of the criticisms, and Don was talking about it too, was that one of the criticisms people were talking about was they made the humans feel and seem stupider than the monkeys. But what people aren't remembering is that gas made their brains keep developing. I think they even developed past our intelligence at some point, because if you remember, what was it? Caesar could do. I forget the name of that test. Where he stacks all those circles, and he did it and then Koba did it in like 15 seconds. Yeah. So I think they would be smarter than us at some point, especially 10 years later, if their brains keeps generating and keeps becoming, more advanced.
Well, see, that's how I was kind of thinking of it. Like, I mean, if you look in terms of society, it's like, the human society, like, we're all like separate. Two people don't really talk to each other by walking next to each other. But if you look like a society, like, I don't know, like insects, like ants, like they're all working together for the greater purpose. Everyone is helping each other. So that's what I was kind of thinking. Like maybe, this virus has kind of evolved them to all work together and all be like one united pact. But like I said, Koba's actions kind of debunked that theory of mine.
Well, I think Koba's actions, almost more than any of the human actions, made the most sense to me. I can understand why he hated them, and I can understand why he didn't trust them, and he thought Caesar was weak because of it. I mean, didn't you think so, Don? Or?
Oh yeah, totally.
But it seemed kind of selfish. Like he was doing it. I don't know. Was he doing it because he felt that humans, once they got energy, once they got power, they would then do what they would then.
That's what.
Or did he just do it just for revenge? I didn't know.
Koba explained it though. He said in the movie that once they got the power, they would be more powerful. They would be more unstoppable. And especially once he noticed the armory, he was like, we're screwed. He's like, once they get everything up and running, they're going to come up here and they're going to take our land. They're going to take us down. And he was worried about that. He was really worried about the outcome of everything. And he felt that Caesar was too blinded by his love for the humans.
And he had every reason to believe that, because the one human they ran into in the first time in 10 years shot one of them, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and now they have all these guns.
Go.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I think you're right in one way. I think for Koba, it was a little bit revenge. I mean, that's why he took it so far. But mostly, I think it was the ends justified the means. Even killing Ash and throwing him off the balcony, he figured in the end it would all sort itself out. Once the Apes were on top, it wouldn't matter what happened to get up there. And it's a parody of how humans think, dictators think, even all the way back to Rome. The ends always justify the means, right? I mean, Castro took over, Cuba. He was this great guy, but he did all these horrible things to get there. And then when he took over everybody, right? And he changed the way he was because the ends justified the means in his mind. And I think Koba was that way too. He thought Caesar was now weak and loved the humans too much. He was going to let them basically walk over them, and someone needed to step up and be that leader. And that's how Koba thought. I don't think he betrayed Caesar just to betray Caesar. I don't think it was an easy choice for Koba. I think you could see him struggling with it up to that point. Even when they're having arguments, you could see Koba going, "You're not getting it," And so, because Koba showed respect to him all the way up to the end when he decided, "I got to do something, or we're going to get wiped out." And I think Don said it right, where he found that armory. I think that was the breaking point for Koba.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. So let's talk negatives. For me, I don't really have any. I don't think. I'm trying to, really kind of think in my head, but you know what? Like, from what I expected this movie to do and what it gave me and the storyline and everything, there's not really anything else I can say negatively. From a personal standpoint, I wish James Franco's character was still around.
Yeah,
I hate that he had to be one of the deaths from the flu. That kind of sucks because I would have loved to have seen him come back, even if it wasn't this movie. Maybe come back in the next film, and kind of have that moment with Caesar again.
Well, did he die, or did they just not explain it?
I'm pretty sure he's dead. I'm pretty sure he died from the flu. That's why the house was all busted. And I read that if you look at a picture of the house from a still clip, pic from the movie, the house has an X on the door, which all the houses that were infected had an X marked on the door.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm pretty sure he's gone. Hey, maybe down the road they might bring him back, and
him and Koba, they're hanging out together.
Yeah, I mean, it was never officially, it was never officially announced that James Franco's character was dead, but you kind of just assume that, and I feel like they moved on in a different direction. But like I said, from a personal standpoint, I would have liked to have seen his character kind of come back and kind of almost be in place of the Jason Clarke character, but but that's just being, super nitpicky on it. Other than that, I mean, I don't really have any negatives on this film. I absolutely loved it. So, Sean, what anything stand out for you that you didn't like or that you wish they would have done better?
I mean, just like you, man, there's really hardly anything I can really pick with this movie. I mean, like you said, it would have been nice to kind of see Franco in maybe a role kind of like Will Smith in I Am Legend, where he feels responsible for creating this, and his life purpose is to, I mean, at this point, there's really no reason to look for a cure because everyone who's alive is immune to it anyway.
Yeah.
But it would just been kind of interesting to maybe see that. I thought, and Pat, you mentioned his name earlier. I know him as Alvarez from the TV show Oz, but the Hispanic guy that shot Ash in the beginning of the movie,
Kirkus Savito, I think is his name.
Yeah, I when I saw that they were bringing him along to go meet with Caesar after Caesar had demonstrated his strength by coming to the city, I'm like, out of any person that you want to bring with you, why are you picking this guy? Like, he already demonstrated how much he does not like them. He doesn't respect them. They're just animals. He shot him. He shot the one without even thinking. Like, he is that loose cannon, and unless Gary Oldman would have ordered it or made or they would have. Maybe, I don't know, just tell me why you're bringing him along. I just don't know why they brought him along.
You know, this was something that I know me
Yeah.
and Pat talked about actually right after the movie got out.
Yeah.
We were talking about it with my brother-in-law, and that was something that we were arguing about too, because we're like, yeah, like, when they first said he was coming along, they made it sound like he was like the technician of the dam, you know,
Pivotal.
like he was very pivotal to the mission, you know, like they needed him to get the dam up and running, you know, but then they didn't do anything with him. Like
He did nothing.
They got trapped.
Yeah.
They blew the hole in the dam. They got trapped in the rocks. You know, the apes came and saved them. And then he was still an asshole. He brought the gun. Then they put him in the truck and they said, "Don't move, stay there."
And they flipped the switch and it was on.
And then he didn't do anything. Yeah. So it was like, on one point, they tried to almost make it sound like he had to come along because, like, he was the only one that had that experience with the dam, you know? But from the way that they filmed it and the way everything came across on screen, it looked like he didn't do a goddamn thing. So,
And he was just useless.
and like
He
you
was
said,
a plot device.
just like, why would you bring the one guy that's already pissed off Caesar? So it's like, it just
Exactly.
makes no fucking, you know, it just made no sense at all from that aspect of why would you do that? And it's just stupid humans, man. Like, that's what pissed me off was Caesar was cool enough to let them come onto their land, work on that dam. He had one damn stipulation, which was no guns, and that motherfucker had to go and screw it up.
And it was such a nice moment, you know, where the Caesar's, the youngest son, was with them, and even Blue Eyes was kind of smiling, like, you know, these guys aren't so bad, and like messes it up, and then that's when Caesar's like, y'all gotta go now. And so, again, he was pointless, but at the same time, he was right. He had said, as soon as they got back to the camp, you know, we got to do something. They're just going to follow us and attack us. And then they're like, no, nothing like that's going to happen. But that's exactly what happened. You know, Koba's, you know, crew came back, you know, found the armory, took over, and that was pretty much a wrap. And that was another, it's not really beef I have with the movie, but I liked it and I didn't like it because, I'll tell you in a minute, but when Koba attacked the fortified place that they were at, it just seemed really brainless, and it was very, I would say, you know, like kind of like a Roman type of attack where you just have one row of people and you're running straight, and eventually, you know, those in the back will get to the front, and then they'll finally take over. Like, you know, if Caesar was like that scene in the first movie on the bridge, Caesar, you know, he had such an awesome plan. He's like, all right, well, you guys go to the bottom, you guys go to the top, we'll go to the straight, you know, and then at the end, you know, we'll all come together. And you know, that I would just have liked to see like a better plan, like a better executed plan. But again, since Caesar wasn't the one executing the plan, I'm sure that's why it was such a chaotic, you know, a chaotic attack. But it eventually worked, so you know that was great.
A chaotic attack made sense for somebody like Koba.
Like Koba, right?
You know, like that's why he wasn't the leader. You know, Caesar thought things through. He knew how to interact with the humans. He knew how to address them and talk to them. And you know, Koba was just like, he was all about action. You know, so like that would be his motive. Is just, all right, here's the game plan. We're just rushing the motherfucking city and we're going crazy. Like, let's go. You know, and that was what Caesar was trying to avoid, because Caesar said, you know, if we start a war, you know, how many apes are going to die in the process, you know? And that's exactly what they focused on. When they first started running in, it was just like, boom, apes dying everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
And they were proving that Caesar was right. Like, you can't just, like, do that.
Well, it's also a parallel in Roman history. I mean, Pompey was more like Koba, and Caesar was more like Caesar. So Pompey was a horrible strategist. He just sent everybody in, wave in to die. Caesar had everything he needed set up when he went into a battle to where they were always surrounded. They always had their flanks taken. And it kind of had that parallel historically, too. So I think did you hear all that? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah, you cut out for a second. So I think that parallel was there for a reason. I think Don is correct in a way to saying that Koba felt like Pompey, where all his men were disposable as long as he took what he needed for power to get back in. Where Caesar felt, I need these men to keep, or these apes, to keep fighting. And so his approach would have been more like the bridge.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, like I said, I mean that was something I would have liked to see a well executed attack, but at the same time, since Koba was leading, it made perfect sense. And and I'm trying to think of things I didn't like about the movie, but I guess the only other thing I got a little frustrated with was when I can't remember the actor's name. You said it was Jason, the main human. Yeah.
Malcolm.
When he went to basically tell Gary Oldman, hey, you probably shouldn't blow up this place. I don't know. He could have probably brought that up to him a little bit better than pulling a gun on him and then just be like, the apes are great and they're awesome and they're going to stop this. And it's like, you sound like you're freaking insane. Like that.
I totally agree with you. That was a beef
Yeah.
that I brought up to Pat and them after we watched the movie. I said, why didn't he just tell them what's up?
They're friends too, right? They started this thing together.
Like, he was totally cool with Gary Oldman's character, so I'm like, if I was in that boat, I would have pulled him aside and I would have said, listen, man, I spent fucking the last 2 days with these apes. They don't mean us any fucking harm, but one of them is gone crazy, and that's the dude that's, starting all this drama. But the real ape, that's in charge is here with me. We're working on a plan, and this is what's going to go down. I don't know. I felt like explaining that story would have gone over so much better than just grabbing the guy's gun and being like, hey guys, y'all need to listen to me. This is what's going down. And then it did make him look a little crazy. And of course, once you get a gun pulled on you, no one's listening. No one cares what the fuck the point is that you're trying to get across. It was just like, okay, now you're brainwashed by the apes and we're going to have to kill you too.
Yeah, it was a weird scene.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, So I mean, then at the end, it didn't really work out too well he came out alive. Nobody else did. So whatever. But yeah, man, it was an awesome movie. I can't think of really anything else I would like to gripe about the movie. It was, Pat, do you have anything?
Really, first of all, I'll start off saying I love the movie. But if I was going to nitpick, if I was going to say the things that I kind of caught, that same scene you're talking about, they made it sound like the explosions were going to make this big effect. And I get it that, I was talking to the other Pat that was there, your brother-in-law, they didn't have a lot of time to set him up either. But it didn't have any effect. It didn't seem like it did much but caused a little chaos. So I felt like Gary Oldman kind of killed himself for no reason. I kind of hated that. I mean, I get that it's probably plausible, like Gary thought he was going to do this huge thing, I think his name was Dreyfus or something in the movie. But anyway, it didn't. And so it kind of felt like they just kind of wasted his character because I kind of didn't hate him, I didn't want to see him die. So that kind of bothered me. I had a problem, not that it mattered in movies like this, but I was telling Don I had a problem figuring out what day they were on and how many days were passed and how long was Caesar healing and where the battle was. And maybe I'm just dumb, I don't know, but I couldn't. It was hard for me to figure out how time was flowing in that moment. Does that make sense? I don't know if there's any way to fix that, though, because like me and Don were talking about, I don't really want to see 2 hours later, 2 hours before. I mean, I don't want to see that either. So
for Pat, 2 hours later.
Yeah, exactly. Like I need a.
That was what I felt like Pat was going for at the end. It was like, why didn't they tell me every time?
Yeah, what's going on? I had a hard time understanding. Was it a day they was healing?
It all took place over 3 days, basically. So
yeah,
that's all you needed to know.
It didn't affect the movie at all, though. I mean, again, none of these things really affected the movie for me. I believe this is one of my favorite movies now this year. It's in my top 4 now, and pretty tie the top. I really liked it. I want to see it again. And this is one of the movies we didn't see in 3D or IMAX. We just saw it normal, and it still had that kind of impact on me. I think for a long time, not too many movies have actually pulled me into a character like this. And for even Caesar, I don't know. I mean, I'm really attached to him. And there's a scene where I thought they killed him, and I'm like, they couldn't have killed him. There's no way they could have killed him. I was so attached to him that if they would have killed him, I would have probably been done watching the movies, you know. Same with Maurice. I didn't want Maurice to be dead either, and they didn't kill him, which was good. But no, I mean, other than that, I mean, I think the biggest problems that I had were already covered by you two. I think that the radio guy, remember he had like a radio and he moved it around and he took it with him. They made it kind of seem like he needed all that stuff in that room to do the radio, and then he just kind of brings a computer and a headset down to the bottom and was still trying to communicate with people. Was that laptop charged? I don't know. I did like the detail of everything. There was like water systems in the rooms and stuff. But I didn't like the fact that when the monkeys took over everything, the sets looked different to me at that point. Like, I don't know. It seemed like the insides looked worse than they were. I don't know if it's because the time has passed and the war happened. So, other than that, though, I don't really have much gripes. I mean, the movie was fantastic. I mean, even the people I needed to hate, I didn't like, and the people I did like, I liked. So all the actors did a good job. And I don't know. I don't have much to say other than it's already an hour and 3 minutes, and I don't need to go on anymore. Because I love the movie.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. So all three of us loved it. I don't know if I liked it more than the first film. I was telling Pat earlier, I think I need to see it again to really figure that out. I've seen Rise a dozen times, and I actually had just rewatched it a couple days before we saw Dawn, just to kind of make it fresh in my mind. Plus, my other brother-in-law had never seen the movie either, so he was interested in seeing it, so he came over and we watched Rise together, and that reminded me, you know, of how good of a movie that was.
Yeah.
And so going into Dawn, I was like, I don't know, I knew it was going to be good. Dawn is getting some of the best reviews of any big blockbuster movie this summer. I mean, you know, when you look at Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 92% critic rating and a 95% fan rating. It's got like a 9 something on IMDb out of 10. I mean, it's a widely loved film. I mean, everybody really likes this film, and so I loved it too. I don't know if I liked it more than Rise. Rise holds such a special place in my heart. I love seeing Caesar as a baby and growing up and going through all the transitions. But it's hard to not love, you know, warrior Caesar and leader Caesar in this film too. So, you know, I just think I need to see it a couple more times to really make that final call if it's, you know, which one's the better film. But this is good. I mean, Rise of the Planet of the Apes was a 5-star movie for me, and Dawn is another 5-star movie for me. So they're 2 for 2 for me in this series of doing 5 out of 5 films. So my hat is off to them for producing something really, really great. It had an awesome box office opening weekend. The studio was predicting about a $60 million opening, and it actually did 73. So really big opening here in the States for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. So I'm very happy for its success. I know word of mouth has been super positive, so that's helping keeping it going. I'm pretty sure it'll probably be number 1 again this weekend. There's 3 big movies coming out, but I don't think any of them will touch what Dawn's going to do because of the word of mouth and everything. So 5 out of 5 from me. Sean, any last words on Dawn? What would be your rating?
I mean, you know, last words, you know, as far as prequels go, you know, with this whole franchise, you know, that prequels to me, they don't really blow my mind. You know, you have Star Wars prequels, you have I don't know, I guess you want to consider like the Scorpion King a prequel, you know, generally for me, prequels don't blow me away the way that these 2 movies have. And I mean, it's even, you know, when Koba threw Ash over the side, it just made me think of Kill Bill, you know, when Lucy Liu was like, now did any of y'all son of a bitches have anything else you want to say? You know, it was There's so many good things about this movie. But I'm right there with you. Can I say that I like it better than the first? I don't think so. The first movie, it I don't know. It just did so much for me. The story, the look that Caesar would have when he was angry. Like when Caesar would stare at that guy from the other side of the cage, you knew he was pissed. And that look,
Yeah.
I wish he would have used that look a little bit more in this movie. If he would have looked at Koba like that, I don't think this whole thing would have happened. But I don't know. I'm just kidding. But again, this movie was super great. I would have to give it a 4. In terms of, it did give me everything I wanted, but it felt a lot like Avatar, so I kind of at the same time felt like, this is just another recycled story. But, yeah, so I'm going to give this movie a 4. That's Peeps' rating.
Talking about Koba and Caesar, I mean, that scene where Koba comes back from the armory and he pushes down Jason Clarke's kid.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Where's Caesar?" All pissed off. And then Caesar comes out and they get into the fight and Caesar ends up beating him down.
Yeah.
I was like, damn.
But when he walks around the corner and looks at him, I'm like, oh, snap.
Yeah, he's like, "Where's Caesar?" And Caesar's like, "What up? Who called me?" And then they just get into it, dude. And then at the end, Koba's like, "Fuck," and then he does the kneel down with the hand out,
You just got knocked the fuck out.
He's like,
well, he was choking him to death, and he had to stop
dude,
himself.
Yeah,
and
Caesar had
hey,
to control himself.
Abe.
Like, fuck, yeah. Great scene. All right, Pat, summary and your rating.
Ultimately, there was a lot of thought, I think, that went into these characters. I like how the first movie didn't change them from the first movie because, like you said, there's different directors. He could have went in a total different direction, and he didn't. So I like that. I think part of me, like I said, still likes the first one better. It's really hard for me to say that, but because I got to see that, I got attached to him in that movie. You saw him go from innocent to the ape he is in this movie. I think I'm more attached emotionally to him. Like that scene you're talking about, we saw the innocent leave his eyes in that place, and then he, for the first time, when he looks like eye to eye to that guy in the first movie, he has this eeriness, like, you're smarter than you're leading on to. And in this movie, you saw him mature, that mature role where that innocence has been gone for a long time. So I kind of like that. I like that scene where Maurice and him are talking, and Maurice is kind of like that guidance, that counselor to him. And it was like two old friends talking, and like I could relate to that. I could see two old friends talking, and I just related so much with the apes in this movie. I couldn't really. I mean, honestly, I'm like Dawn. I didn't relate to the humans as much as maybe I should have because I'm human, but it just felt like the humans were there, but the apes stole the show. I think Caesar stole the show. I mean, every scene that's memorable to me really is Caesar, and I guess Koba. Yeah, go see the movie. That's all I can say. It's really worth it. Tell your friends about it. Get it some play. I mean, all the critics liked it, probably because Michael Bay didn't direct it, but no, I love the movie. I would give it a 5 out of 5 using Dawn's scale because I don't have a scale. So I don't think it could have been any better. They couldn't have done anything to this movie that made me better, and there was nothing in it that made me go to a 4. Honestly, I don't remember how long it was, but it was over in a flash for me.
Yeah, it was just a little over 2 hours. I think it's 2 hours and 10 minutes. But yeah, so awesome. Another great movie here that basically all three of us agree is super, super solid and definitely thumbs up all the way around that you should check out. 5 out of 5 for me, a 4 out of 5 for Peeps, and a 5 out of 5 for Geeky Pat. So I think that's enough to tell you need to go out and see this film, which most of you have probably already seen it if you're listening to the spoiler review. But if not, go see it again. And, we hope you enjoyed the spoiler review. And I'm sure we'll be doing another one here soon. And so, Geeky Pat, where can we find you online? What's going on with you?
Well, you can, of course, find me at Red Dragons Radio. That's where you would find me with This Week with the Geek. So, really, in the end, that's really the only place you have to go. But if you want to check out some of my other stuff, you can go to geekypatbroadcasting.com. And there you can check out my YouTube page. You can check out all the Red Dragons Radio stuff from there, too. I have a tab just for that. So yeah, all my news is there and all that. So that would be Geeky Pat at Geeky Pat Broadcasting. I'm sorry, at geekypatbroadcasting.com. You can get me at Twitter at Geeky Pat /Geeky Pat. No, it's at Geeky Pat. Sorry, I'm tired. It's late.
Geeky underscore Pat.
Yeah, Geeky underscore Pat. Don, that's why I keep you around. Yeah, Geeky underscore Pat, and then of course you can hit me up at Facebook at /Geeky Pat.
There you go. And the Peeps himself, where can we find you? And what's going on with you lately?
Hey, well, I got my own show. What we do with this spoiler reviews, it's just kind of, I love talking. I love doing this back and forth, how we like the movie, what we didn't like about the movie. And I created the People's Forum. You will find the People's Forum also. Wow, Pat, that's awesome. I'm also at the reddragonsradio.com.
Yeah, imagine that.
And yeah, I know, crazy. And I have a 2-hour episode out right now. It's a part 1 of 3 for the history of comic book films. Start back in the day in the late 70s, talking about the Superman movie. I've got a friend of mine, Fred. He's a comic book guru. I got a friend of mine. I don't know if you guys know him. His name's DONMEGA. But I got him to join me. And yeah, we're talking comic book films. We started in the 70s. We last episode ended in the 2000s, and we just recorded early 2000s up through, I think we're at 2008. So we're almost there. The next one, we're going to start with the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's going to be glorious. Check me out on Twitter, For My Peeples. That's For My PEEPLES. And get at me, boy.
Yeah, I checked the show. It was really good, Sean. You and Don and Fred had good chemistry. I can't wait to listen to the next one.
Oh, yeah. It's good.
Awesome.
Man.
Hopefully it doesn't take a week to put it out.
I'm new.
Get that shit uploaded. It should be easy for you to do now.
Oh, yeah. I'm a master at it.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. So definitely check out the shows, man. Everything is on reddragonsradio.com. You can listen to This Week with the Geek, with Geeky Pat himself. You can listen to the People's Forum with For My Peeples. And, of course, you can listen to this all of the Am I Still on the Airs. You can listen to my show, Am I on the Air? It's all on reddragonsradio.com. If you just go there, look down that left tab, and you'll see all the different show links on there. Plus, there's even other podcasts that we're not affiliated with. So check everything out over on reddragonsradio.com. You can follow on Twitter at reddragonsradio. Definitely check out the People's Forum. Awesome episode we did last week with the history of comic book movies, talking about Superman, the Tim Burton Batmans, The Crow. We went through all different kinds, even the Joel Schumacher Batmans. We went through everything all the way up to the 2000 mark. And we just recorded part 2 earlier tonight, and it was another 2-hour jam-packed edition talking about the X-Men franchise and talking about, Superman Returns and Man of Steel, and we're all over the place on this one. And, we wrapped up right before launching into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so that'll be part 3 and the finale of the 3-part series that I think was originally intended to be one episode. And
I knew it was going to be a trilogy the whole time. You'll see.
Exactly, It was always intended to be a trilogy. But it's awesome. So it's already, like I said, part 1 is already up on the site. Part 2 will be up here in the next day or two. So keep an eye out for that. Once again, Am I on the Air? Brand new episode just posted last night. That episode is called Apes on Horses. Get you up to speed on everything. The spoiler-free review of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, plus the Emmy nominations, and we talk about Thor becoming a woman in the comic books now, and Clerks 3, all kinds of the news of the week. So definitely check out the latest Am I on the Air. It's amiontheair.com. You can follow me on Twitter at DXDonMega, and of course the show at Am I on the Air. Like us on Facebook over at facebook.com/Am I on the Air as well. And that will sum up tonight's Am I Still on the Air? Dawn of the Planet of the Apes spoiler review. Thanks so much for tuning in. Keep your eyes posted for the next edition, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Red Dragon.